What's up guys, my name is Mark Steiner, and today we are going to be reviewing the Hollyland Pyro 7. Full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Hollyland, but I only work with brands and products that I genuinely believe in, and this is a really special product. Let's get right into it. It's part of the new Pyro series of wireless transmitters and receivers from Hollyland, and while the Pyro S and Pyro H are both great, I think the Pyro 7 is the most exciting in this new series of products. When I first took it out of the box, I was instantly impressed with the size and the build quality of this monitor, and then once I had turned it on, I got even more excited because the display is absolutely gorgeous. It's 1200 nits, so it gets plenty bright and you can use it even in outdoor scenarios. The build quality on this thing is great. It's made of a magnesium aluminum alloy, which makes it super lightweight but really sturdy, and it more than holds up for my kind of use cases. Let's talk about the physical features of this monitor. It has a physical on-off switch, which I really appreciate on a monitor like this because you're not going to be pressing a button and accidentally messing everything up. And you can instantly see if the monitor is on or off based off the green and red indication on the switch. We have two custom function buttons on the top right of the monitor, which you can map to the settings of your choice. I really appreciate that one of the buttons is smooth and one of the buttons is slightly indented, so you don't need to look at the buttons to know which one you're pressing. I currently have F1 mapped to focus peaking and F2 mapped to locking and unlocking the touchscreen. There are 1/4-inch screws on each side as well as the bottom, which gives you plenty of mounting options. I've been absolutely loving this because I have to switch between vertical and horizontal shooting both for personal use and client work, and having a monitor that can adapt to any situation is just beautiful. On the back of the monitor, we have all of the I/O. We have DC in, SDI in and out, HDMI in and out, a 3.5mm jack for audio monitoring, and a USB-C port. I just want to say it's so nice having the I/O on the back of the monitor because usually it's on the side and then you have all this cabling on the side and it just doesn't work, and it's a massive pain trying to rig everything up. So the fact that it's on the back just makes for a cleaner setup and way more easily accessible. It's really nice that this monitor offers both SDI as well as HDMI because this makes it even more versatile. I'm a Sony Alpha shooter, which means I'm using the HDMI because that's what these cameras have, but it's really nice that you can use these monitors on high-end cinema cameras, or if you're on set, you know that it can handle any camera because it has both SDI and HDMI, and I think that makes this just so much more valuable. On the back of the monitor, we have a dual NPF battery plate, which you can swap out for a gold mount or V-mount plate if you prefer, but those aren't included. And then last but not least, there's an SD card slot on the side with an included 32GB SD card. You can use this to install your own LUTs, but the really cool feature about this is that you can record from the monitor to the SD card. Now, I want to be very clear about two things. One, hitting that record button does not mean you're hitting record on your camera, and two, this is not like an external recorder. Don't use this as your main footage. The reason why is because it is not very high quality footage. The file sizes are between 8 and 12 megabytes, so it's not used as main footage. It's not competing with your internal recording of your camera. What it is good for though is quick social media tidbits or proxy recording, or the thing that I'm most excited about, being able to record my camera, which means that if I'm going through the menus to try and explain what settings to change on a camera, or if I want to show how my autofocus settings are changing, or if I'm showing the BTS of a shoot, I can show how exactly my model is posing with all my autofocus points and all my settings on my display. And instead of having a camera that I have to point towards my camera to show this, or have my iPhone up to my viewfinder, which is what I was doing before, I can now just record on this monitor, and it is so helpful. Once you've gotten everything rigged up and turned on, it is extremely intuitive to use. I didn't read the operating manuals or anything like that, and within 3 minutes, I had gotten the hang of this monitor. Fun fact, this monitor actually arrived 30 minutes before I had to leave and go interview a Michelin star chef, and I only had 3 minutes to play with it. So the fact that I was able to get the hang of it within 3 minutes, I then chose, you know what? I know this is not a good idea. This is a new piece of gear. You should never bring a new piece of gear that you haven't tested and know in and out with 100% certainty to a professional shoot. But I thought, you know what? I'm gonna bring it because it seems really easy to use. And you know what? It was. I was able to set it up with no problem. It worked flawlessly with my current setup. I wasn't fumbling to be like, oh my God, how do I turn it on? How do I power it? It just worked. So like I said, the software experience is extremely intuitive. You tap on the screen and you bring up all of your tools. You have waveform, vector scopes, histograms, focus peaking, zebras, false color, LUTs, focus punch-in, framing tools, Anamorphic D-Squeeze. This one is really cool because not only does it have the popular presets, you can literally dial in your exact D-Squeeze if your lens doesn't fall into one of the normal presets, which is super helpful. You can mirror and flip your image. I can't tell you how many times on other monitors I have been so frustrated because I was shooting vertically or the camera or the monitor was just positioned in a weird way and the monitor just didn't understand that and I couldn't flip the image to look right and it just got so frustrating. So the fact that I can just flip this and mirror this to my heart's content no matter which orientation it's in makes my life a lot easier. Getting into the deeper settings on this monitor, you can choose your input and map what custom function you want F1 and 2 to be. You can also toggle between auto and low fan settings. There is an internal fan on this monitor, but I've never had any issues when it comes to sound. In my experience, if you select auto, it does kind of ramp up the fan noise a little bit, but I keep it in low and I've had no issues with overheating or fan noise, so I would just keep it in low if I were you. There's also a brightness slider as well as RGB sliders, so you can dial in that perfect color for your monitor if you so wish. And then we get to the special tricks this monitor has up its sleeve. Not only is this thing a fantastic monitor, but it is also a transmitter and receiver. Now, it might sound scary to some, and personally, when I first started learning about all this video stuff, I was overwhelmed because it sounded really complicated. But this monitor makes it super simple. All you have to do is turn it on, put it in transmitter mode, and then turn on another monitor and put it in receiver mode, and it just works. Gear should just make your life easier and not have you stressing about whether or not you set it up properly or if it's working as intended, and this monitor just does such a good job of that. You just turn it on, make sure you have one transmitter, one receiver, and it just works. It's like some Apple ecosystem magic. You just turn it on and it pairs automatically and seamlessly, and that's what you want out of a product. I just keep it in auto mode and it works perfectly. I don't need to worry about channels or frequencies. The monitor takes care of all of that. It has auto frequency hopping, so if it notices that there's a bit of a jam on a certain frequency, it'll adjust so that your video remains smooth. It also has 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands, so that means you get the best of both worlds and it can switch between them if it notices there's anything wrong with a specific frequency. All that you need to know is that this monitor is going to give you a stable signal. There's the option for smooth mode as well as HQ mode, both serving a different purpose. Smooth mode is going to give you the most stable, lowest latency feed, whereas HQ mode is going to give you the highest quality picture. This is kind of like gaming settings. Do you want high FPS and lower resolution, or do you want higher resolution and lower FPS? It's really just a preference thing and use case thing. So personally, I keep it in the smooth mode because I care about the smoothest feed. That's what matters to me. But if you're someone like a director or you're in Video Village, you might want to have this setting on the HQ mode so they can see the picture quality at its highest. Whereas if you're a focus puller, you definitely want it in the smooth mode so you have the lowest latency when you're doing your focus pulls. This is super helpful for when I'm filming myself and I can't see my camera, but I still want to see my framing. It's also really helpful on client shoots because I can have an on-camera monitor that's just for me, and then I can hand a monitor off to my client, and it just, one, looks so professional, and two, they really appreciate being able to see how they're framed up, their posture, if they look good on camera, and if they're like anything's wrong with their hair. There's something about knowing how you're looking on camera and just being able to be put at ease knowing that you look your best. So let's talk about range and connected devices. When broadcast mode is turned off, you have the advertised range of 1,300 feet or 400 meters, which connects up to 2 receivers as well as 2 mobile devices using the HollyView app. I have a clear view of the monitor up here. Everything is good. The wireless signal is strong, and I don't know if you can see me on the bottom left of the monitor here, and the camera right there. So it's quite far away. Which then begs the question, what is broadcast mode? Broadcast mode on these new devices allow you to connect up to 4 receivers at one time. So 4 people can be viewing the exact same feed on 4 separate devices, but at the cost of range. I'm now about maybe 170, 180 meters away from the main camera, but we're still getting good signal. As you can see, that car that just went by, here it comes. Okay, we're at the max here. We're definitely getting some drop frames, we're getting some freeze frames. I think we're pushing past that 200 meter limit, so you will have a bit of lag and drop frames there. But yeah, this is in broadcast mode, so if you have the non-broadcast mode, you have that full 400 meters and it looks great. I can see myself coming into frame right now, and here I am. Look at this. No signal dropping. Everything is good. Absolutely incredible that you can get signal like this.
from that far away.
So if you wanted to build out a 5-monitor kit, you could have 1 monitor on camera transmitting and 4 monitors receiving that feed. But that capability halves the range, so you're at 650 feet or 200 meters. Hollyland rates the latency of this monitor in smooth mode at 60 milliseconds, which I think is extremely respectable and is more than enough for the kind of work that I do. And honestly, I don't think anyone is really going to be complaining about 60 milliseconds of latency because it's not that critical. The focus pullers that I know have no problem with that, and I think in general most people are not going to have a problem with that. Online, people might say some things, but in actuality, it's not that big of an issue. I don't have the most precise gear to show you exactly how many milliseconds of latency I'm getting, but what I can show you is the real world use of this, and you'll see it's really not that bad, and I think for most people, it's more than good enough. Let's talk battery. I usually have an on-camera monitor that's being powered by a V-mount battery via the included D-tap cable, which I think is a wonderful inclusion in this kit. Because it's being powered by a V-mount, I've had 0 issues when it comes to battery life. That thing just keeps chugging along for hours and hours and hours, even when it's in transmission mode. And then my receiving monitor is being powered by 2 NPF batteries from Small Rig, and I've had no issues with that whatsoever. I usually record for 2 hours and the battery percentage drops to maybe 87, 85% on these 2 batteries, and that's really, really good. So if you're worried about not having enough battery, 1, these NPF batteries are hot swappable, so you can just keep changing them in and out. And 2, my batteries have been lasting a really, really long time. Obviously, this is going to depend on your battery, so your mileage will vary. So if you have a good battery, you'll have plenty of time with these monitors. I honestly don't have anything negative to say about these monitors, but if I was to get really nitpicky, I would say an area of improvement might be that the monitor turns on a little bit faster. I know I'm spoiled with my camera equipment, my Sony cameras, that they turn on instantly and I'm ready to start shooting. So I'm used to, like 1 second of turn on time. I know on professional cinema cameras, it can be like 30 seconds to a minute of turning the camera on. So I'm not used to that, but I know it's very common in the industry. So the fact that the startup time of these monitors is like 5 or 6 seconds, really not that big of a deal. Other than that, I think these monitors are such a good value, and they are honestly one of the coolest pieces of equipment to come out in 2024. And I think so many people are gonna love this kind of equipment because it really takes your gear to the next level and it allows you to get things that you couldn't get previously. And I love gear that simplifies everything and makes your life easier and just works. And that's what's important when it comes to gear. You don't want to be stressing about gear. You just want gear that looks good, works well, and works in your workflow. And these work extremely, extremely well. And I'm so happy with them. And I think the value you get out of this is amazing. Like, this kind of tech used to be, if you were a normal person, you could never afford this kind of tech. This was for big Hollywood level budgets. And now it's come down to the consumer level and you're getting a really good product. And it'll kind of last you a lifetime because you have HDMI and SDI. It can grow with you as you upgrade from DSLR to mirrorless to proper cinema camera. It works on any set, and I think that kind of value is just incredible. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. My name is Mark Steiner, and I'll see you next time.